Good evening, everyone, and I'm hoping everyone can hear me. In the Google chat, if you just give a wee reaction, a thumbs up, a party popper, a laughing emoji, a crying emoji because you've given up a Tuesday night to do this when you could be out guising, that would be grand. Thank you. Just to know that we are coming through loud and clear. I'm Gordon Ray, as you can see from the bottom of my little video image there. And I'm one of the lead tutors with STACS, working with a wee team. We'll introduce them in a second or two. But just to check that we've all managed to get into the Miro board, I think you can see most people there. And also that as we go through the sessions, can we use, if you're wanting to post about this and share just how amazing and wonderful we all are, if you use the hashtag upskill with STACS on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, LinkedIn, and anywhere else you post, even if it's just a bit of graffiti on a bridge somewhere, that would be absolutely swell. I think one of the background team's just going to put that in the chat so you can see where it's going.
At this stage, can we also remind you that these sessions are being recorded, and we're assuming and making the assumption that if you stay on the call, then you're okay with that recording being used on the STAC websites or parts of it being tweeted or X'd or whatever it is now, for for purposes for other teachers to have a look at.
So brilliant, thanks. So hopefully we are all on the Miro board, where you can find nice little bios of all of our tutors, myself included, and we'll just kind of go through each one in turn and just give a little wave so you can put names to faces. So I'm Gordon. I'm head of computing science at Edinburgh Academy. Funnily enough, it's in Edinburgh, with literally 2 months experience there, having taught in and around Aberdeen for the last 30 years, 25 years. I'm aging myself there. We've got Brendan McCart, and just before we introduce the rest of the team, we'll introduce reactions on the Miro board, which are up at the top right hand corner. I'm just going to put a little wow on there. So please feel free to put your hands together and send suitably appropriate emojis for Colin. Colin?
All right. I was mesmerised by the reactions. I was distracted by them. Oh, thanks. I'm Colin Lamont. I am a class teacher at Barhead High. I've been a computing teacher for the last 12, 13-ish years. I've done various bits and pieces for SQA as well, so marking, writing, that type of stuff. So hopefully this is at least a wee bit useful for you.
And we've got somebody I know best as @Mr. Neil_CS.
Also known as Ian. Yep, I'm computing science teacher at Beeswax, where I've been for 8 years, and I'm also, and this is my plug, the eScoil lead for higher computing science at a Monday night. So yeah, 2 nights on the trot online, presented to 2 very different audiences, but hopefully both find it very useful.
And last but certainly by no means least, we've got Maggie.
Hi, Maggie Tui. I'm a computing teacher at Douglas Academy in Eastern Bartonshire. I've been teaching now for 19 years after 12 years in the industry. I have higher computing marking for a number of years and started advanced higher this year. I'm still learning. You think all those years I'd know everything by now, but no. Computing's that kind of subject where you're learning every year as you go through. So still learning from other teachers, like in this kind of environment and in school. So that's almost what I enjoy about the subject so much, is because it's for us as well. We are learning all the time.
Yeah, it's that constantly changing subject that as a maths teacher, and it never changes. I really enjoy computing because it's always different. No 2 years are ever the same. So it's worth just touching on the need for upskilling, and Brendan mentioned a little part of this. we look at the Nat 5 and higher course reports published by the SQA, and we look to see what's consistently coming through year upon year as kind of areas that need improvement. And the Nat 5 and higher course reports this year reflect, the teachers are really good at the implementation aspects of web software database, but sometimes meaning that the remaining steps, or analysis, or design, or testing and evaluation, can sometimes be a little bit weaker. Not ours, but the candidates. So how can we provide a set of tools that upskill teachers to deliver those areas just that little bit better? Noting, of course, that we know that pupils prefer to be implementing. They don't like doing the written, like doing analysis and so on. So how can we make it a little bit more meaningful and enjoyable to them?
Okay, so there's, some of those skills like analysis, design, and evaluation, they're kind of the fundamental skills that the pupils are finding challenging. It could be that we're spending too much time on implementation and not seeing the whole ADIT as a package, where focusing on implementation and kind of bolting these bits on as we go. So over the coming sessions, we're hoping to address these areas, give you advice on it, get advice from you as well, and hopefully give you the resource that we've built for tonight, but as well as maybe share other resources and look at developing other resources together.
Yeah, it's all about building that network. Just in terms of practicalities, please do watch out for camera freeze. I've been hit by that a couple of times already. But the audio is the important part. So feel free to put your cameras on if you're all dressed up for Halloween and want to show off. Or if you're not, then you still want to show off, then please do. But it's the audio that's the important part, and we will be largely focusing on the Miro board. We might use breakout rooms. I'm looking at the numbers. It feels possibly that we won't. So please just keep an eye out for that. We'll be working on a Miro board. If you're unfamiliar with Miro board, there will be loads of cursors flying around everywhere. So at the edge of each of the frames that we're working at, we've got a pink cursor park. And we do ask that you when we're talking through something, just pop it on there. To make sure that we're not getting in the way of what we were trying to show. We've had that a couple of times where people haven't been able to see a particular aspect because somebody's put their cursor on the top of it. It's just a little bit of etiquette. We're probably going to go into presenter mode, and we'll have to switch between that as we go. And you can re-follow the presenter, but you have the choice to not follow along. Just the same as the kids have the choice to stare out the window, so can you. So you can always re-follow us, and there's options up at the top right-hand corner. I'm not going to go through them all. It's relatively self-explanatory. If we're presenting and you get a little bit lost, and you're really not sure where we are, we can guide you in. A general rule is if you use the scroll wheel, you can scroll right out and see where everyone else's pointer is, and scroll into that, and that'll kind of bring you back in there. We mentioned frames there. That's using kind of slides. Okay. You can also use the home and next frames in the cursor park, and there's master navigation on the workshop frame. Content frames linked to relevant feedback, and we will be following links off to a couple of replets later, and all that kind of good stuff.
Okay, the presenter whoever's taking that part of the evening will lead you around the board. So they might say, put your cursor in the part beside topic 1C or whatever. But you can still zoom around, as long as you know your cursor, you could use your mouse to zoom around it and look around. The presenter may bring everyone to them. That's a way of getting everyone to get to a certain place at a certain time. So you might get put to a certain frame when the discussion is around that frame, so that you're able to view what the presenter's talking about. We will remind you about the cursor park now and again and advise you how to look at the next activity. So it's just really, if you could make sure you're listening for those kind of requests from us and cooperating with them.
we are looking to finish the session tonight around about 8:30, but myself and the other tutors will hang around for about half an hour for an after party. It's not maybe as exciting. I think I just heard a firework going off here. It's maybe not as exciting as it sounds, but it's a good chance for us to talk and do that networking part and maybe make some connections. So please do hang around for that if you've got a wee bit of time. So let's move on to this evening's kind of format and the activities we're going to be going through, which is actually on the previous slide, just to keep things really interesting. I'm trying to find my mouse now. No. So we're using the hashtag Upskill with STACS. We've talked about the Miro board. We've talked about using the chat in Miro. We've done the agenda. So what are we doing this evening? Well, we're going to introduce you to upskilling. We've talked about that. We're going to be looking at analysis, the functional and end user requirements, and how we draw them out, how we elicit those from, and not how we do it, but more how do we encourage the pupils to be better at it. And we'll also then tie that in with evaluation. And a little bit of staying in touch. If you do happen to leave early or get disconnected, you'll pop something into either the Miro board chat or into the Google chat.
Okay, we will be introducing a concept that we call the golden threads, and that's really how we track the end user and functional requirements through the analysis, design, implementation, testing, and evaluation. Now, as I said earlier, often we teach these in isolation, but they should be joined up, and that's coming from the comments both in the N5 and higher course reports. And if we can build these in at N5, then that'll build on at higher, and then it'll build on again at advanced higher, when it's really important that their functional requirements are all the way through their project. And we've also designed this activity so that you can use it with a class. If you don't want to use Miro boards, you could use physical post-its but use the actual structure of the lesson and have the Miro board up on your screen. But you could have kids bringing post-it notes out and things like that. So the resource is designed for you to use in the classroom as well.
So just before we hand over to Colin and Ian, over on the right-hand side, just to the right of all of our little bios, you'll find a big board with a ton of post-its, and just to show that we can use them to, say hello, put in maybe a wee comment about what you're hoping to get out of the evening, and just do that little bit of interactivity just to get started before we move into the activities proper.
Okay, so you just click on a post-it and then you'll get all the options available. You can fill it in and type in what you want.
It's a big one. It just gives a wee bit of a feel for how the Miro board's going to work as well. There we go. If you really want to show off, see if you can change the color of your post-it. Mine pink. Nope. Tony Scullion's watching us. Best behaviour, everyone.
I was going to say, I've just spotted the lesser spotted Tony Scullion.
Oh, that's a cute little ghost and a couple of pumpkins. There's a broom. They're really rocking the Halloween vibe. And for some new resources.
Somebody's just got us on in the background doing their housework.
Johnny here wants to support my students more as I'm new to it. Yeah, that's what we're all about. And hopefully, we'll make some good connections as well. And other people can help out and maybe put you in contact with people in the local area. You don't know. I don't know. We'll see where it goes.
Perfect.
Happy days. In that case, I'm going to stick my camera off and mute myself and hand over to the dream team of Colin and Ian, who are going to take us through the first couple of
Yeah, if there's any questions when the presenting's going on, you can put a note in the Google Meet chat. So, and Gordon and I will monitor that while they're presenting.
I'm being asked to join your presentation, Colin.
Oh, lucky you. So for anybody who is not in the presenter mode, it's topic 1A, and it just gives you a wee scenario about the kind of the task that we've come up with. This is the National 5 version of it. It does then expand into higher, which we'll come on to later on. So have a wee read at it, have a wee read at the kind of wee speech bubble comments as well. And then in the next frame, so the next kind of slide, is a space for you to put down what you think the functional requirements and the end user requirements are.
So yeah, so as Colin said, have a wee read. The sticky notes are on the right-hand side, left-hand side. I can get it right. And just stick it, have a read. What is the functional requirement? What is the end user requirement? Thinking about what we know of the the National 5 course. There might be things that are not National 5 in this. So once you've had a read, find a post-it note, stick it in, functional requirement, end user requirement. What is this website for Hawkhill to do?
The idea behind this scenario is that it's got a range of functional requirements and end user requirements, and it's kind of how do you go about spotting them, and then how do you go about actually kind of writing them. So what we would like you to do is, using the functional requirements and the end user requirements that have been produced, we want you to kind of think about what would be a good one, what would be a kind of poor one, a great one, an excellent one. And if you just sort of drag and drop from this topic 1B frame into the topic 1C frame and put that post-it note wherever you think it kind of goes in that good, great, excellent scale.
And I would try and grab one that's not your one. Try and grab one that somebody else has put in. And then, you know, if you were one of your students wrote that, what would you think of it? Is it good, great, or excellent? There's stuff moving. Couple more end user requirements needing tweaked over.
There's a yellow one, yep.
Yeah.
Should include form and a menu to get to other pages.
So I suppose it's touching on the idea that in the context of National 5, National 5 candidates aren't expected to implement forms or menus. So that functional requirement isn't a National 5, it's more of a higher one. And we've kind of designed this task that's got National 5 and higher elements in it. Which useful if you've got like a multi-level class, but so in the context of National 5, that wouldn't be something that National 5 would be expected to implement.
So I'm just looking at them thinking, have people already looked ahead to what comes next in the scaffolding? Because some of them are really well worded, some of them are kind of model answer type examples, which is really good. So will we crack on with 1D and we'll look at what we've kind of come up with as makes what we think kind of would get you towards a good answer, an excellent answer, a very good answer.
Yep. Do you want me to unhide 1D1?
Yeah. So we'll do what we got first. End user requirement. So when it's an end user requirement, you should always start with the user should be able to ... because it's something that the user has to be able to do. And the structure that we kind of came up with was using a verb, a feature, and then the context. Now, that comes from having marked, particularly National 5 stuff. You remember there was a question in the exam this year about a website that had randomly had to do with foxes. Not quite sure where the foxes came from, but there was loads of candidates who lost a mark because they said the website should be able to, or the user should be able to watch a video. If you didn't say watch a video about foxes, you didn't get the mark. So the context is quite important. So it's a similar sort of pattern for the functional requirements. This time your kind of stem, your sentence starter would be the website should be able to ... But again, you're talking about a verb, a feature. So if we take out our list of verbs, just some of the things that we came up with for the end user requirements, a user should be able to watch, listen, play, read, see, click, hear, all those types of doing words. And my wife's a primary teacher, so I had to go and check verb, doing word. That is what we're looking for here. For functional requirements, play, display, show, include, open, they would all be things that the website needs to do. So having that, the user should be able to, and then a verb, or having the website should be able to, and then a verb, is getting you towards that requirement. And if we talk about the features, if we magically remove that square, so the features could be reading information, it could be watching videos, it could be listening to sound, it could be clicking on links, either internal or external, it could be looking at or seeing a picture, a graphic, an image, whatever you want to call it. And again, those features go across the functional requirements and across the end user requirements as well. And then the context will be specific for the task. In this case, with the coffee shop, the user should be able to watch a video of Mr. Shelby, who's the head teacher, opening the coffee shop. The user should be able to see pictures or photos or images of flat whites and lattes, so you're tying it back to the scenario. The user should be able to click on an external link to the SQA website. Here we've been a wee bit more specific, the barista qualification bit of the SQA website, but it's all still tied into that scenario. And as I said, that goes back to the question this year about the foxes. If you didn't mention foxes, you didn't get the mark. Similarly, for the functional requirements, it's the same sort of idea. You've got that the website should, and then your verb, and then your feature, and then your context.
I think when we came up with this, or Colin said with this, we all kind of went, I've got an empty wall that could go on. I think the idea of having that, or that reference that our young people, when they're doing it in class, can just go, okay, we're being asked about analysis, end user requirements. How do I do that? There's the step. There's the words I use. There's the feature I do. Biff, bash, bosh. We've got the marks. And it's small marks. It's a small concept, but it works.
It's one of those, we need to be careful that we're not just giving them rote answers, but if they can fill in the blanks with an appropriate verb, an appropriate feature, and an appropriate link to the context, then that's them actually doing quite a lot of the analysis stuff. If you think about the literacy involved in reading a scenario and trying to tease all these things out, then there is quite a lot going on in the background to get that 1 mark or get those 2 marks in the exam or in the course assignment. You can pay your money and take your choice on this one, whether you do functional requirements first and they lead into the end user requirements, or you try and spot the end user requirements first and they lead into the functional. We kind of thought that the end user was a wee bit easier to spot because you just put yourself in the shoes of a user. What do you want to do with the website? What do you want to see, listen to, hear, read on the website? And then you can always kind of deconstruct an end user requirement and reconstruct it as a functional requirement.
And there's also links with this concept with analysis within SDD and with databases as well, and thinking about the context of those units and how you could use it for those. Cool. I think is that us kind of wrapped up on that, Colin?
Unless anybody's got any burning questions.
So I think there's a feedback bit if you want to just put any thoughts or any ideas in. And I think I'm going to turn off my camera now because I think I'm handing with Maggie and Colin are taking us through the next bit.
Oh, you're stuck with me, unlucky. It is Halloween, you were meant to get a fright, I suppose.
Are we looking at the feedback just now, or?
Yeah, I'm just having a quick look at that comment about
Yeah.
the difference between functions and features at National 3 and National 4. So,
yeah, I was just looking at that as well, and it's. I would suggest that there's probably a fairly in-depth answer there, and so we'll maybe just. I've taken a note of it to come back to at the end.
Yep.
But it's a really good question.
Right, will we crack on?
I'm just going to bring everyone to topic 2A. Is everyone at topic 2A in your screen? I could have a wee thumbs up, would be good to see. It should start higher scenario. Okay, so we're now looking at taking on what we've learned from N5, end user and functional requirements, and bringing this into higher. And to be honest, there's really not a lot of difference. You still use the scaffolding skills that we've just talked about, the verb, feature, and context. I think what the SQA would like to see, but we haven't really, I've been marking higher for years and we don't really see this, is maybe a wee bit more technical language, particularly in the functional requirements. So for web, for example, if it was going to be form, you would maybe want to see the website should use a form element, you know, that to actually talk about the element there. But if a form is mentioned, then I think the mark's still going. But I think it's good to teach this, you know, it's not that they'll lose a mark for it, but to give them the sort of technical language, and then that moves on into advanced higher or whatever else they're doing to try and answer a wee bit more with technical detail in their answers. Pretty important. And so we've now had some feedback from this coffee shop being open. We've got some post-its here with feedback on it. Now I want you to kind of read through these post-its and try to come up with some excellent functional and end user requirements to put on the next frame. Remember to use verb, feature, and context. And remember, if you can, to if it's going to be a nav bar or if it's going to be a form, try and put the form element in there. So have a read through the post-its and then take your end user or your functional requirement over onto the frame 2B. Okay, I'll give you a few minutes to do that. Okay, we're getting some good functional requirements here coming up. Any more end user requirements? Okay, I'm going to give you another 30 seconds or so and then we'll discuss some of these end user and functional requirements that will come up on screen. Okay, Colin, I'm just going to have a back and forward with you here.
Right,
so let's pick the end user requirement. The user should be able to fill out a form to order coffee. Now, for me, that's a very good or an excellent one. I feel like I've got a verb, I've got a feature, and I've got a context there. Do you agree?
Yep. I think the only thing, and certainly this has come through the marking that we've done, is that when you are looking at answers for functional requirements and end user requirements, you've got to try and spot the copy pasters, because
yes,
sometimes kids will just write down the sentence that they've been that's in the question and hope that gets them a mark. And I think from teacher's point of view, if you're creating scenarios like this, you've got to be really careful that you don't have them just glaringly obvious sitting there for a kid just to copy down. There does need to be that kind of bit of problem solving. But no, I like that one. The user should be able
that should probably be quite a part of your teaching of it, that you're stressing you don't just copy the question here. The user wants to have interactivity. Well, we've got a verb, we've got a wants, and we've got a feature, but we don't really have context there, do we?
No, you would want to try and link that to the coffee shop in some sort of shape or form.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think at higher level, there's not enough detail in that one. So it does have a verb and a feature, but we're not seeing a context there. So it must reference back to what the website is about and how that end user requirement would show on the website, or what would it show. The user should be able to read the website even if colorblind.
If they said the coffee shop website, even if they're colorblind, you're trying to kind of tie it to the scenario a wee bit. But again, that's an interesting one, because again, we had this discussion when we were coming up with the scenario that a lot of the stuff at higher is to do with design choices. So the look and the positioning of elements, and it can be quite hard to come up with things that aren't just how the website.
When it's really just formatting of the website, but that's an important aspect of a website, is to have accessibility sort of built into it. So let's look at the functioning requirements now. The website must have a form to order online. Again, I feel like I've got a verb here and I've got a feature, but again, the coffee shop has maybe got lost in there. There could be more detail. They could have also, because we're at a higher level, we could be talking about the website must include a form element to order online from the coffee shop. The website should include a form, although we've got a verb and a kind of feature there. I feel that's a very narrow one, and it's not given any context at all. What about this one, Colin? The website should dynamically change the displayed photo of a cup based on user interaction.
Ooh, that sounds fancy, doesn't it?
It does.
Give that kid a mark. I don't really know what it means, but give that kid a mark.
Yeah, I think that's there. And even better would be if they'd said using JavaScript in there, would have given it some technical detail. But these are looking very good. And that idea of verb, feature and context is really important to stress with your pupils. And if they're going to higher, then try and build in that level of technical detail. Now, as I said earlier, the end user and functional requirements can be thought of as golden threads throughout a project. And just taking part in this upskilling, I've realised that my own teaching analysis, I do not spend enough time on it. I really don't. And it is, get to the practical, get to code. They all want to code. But I believe that I'm going to spend much more time doing exercises like this. Because the end user and functional requirements are the threads go through the entire project, and we've called them the golden threads, and they should appear at every stage of the development process. Is everyone seeing 2C now on the board? And if you can park your cursor in the pink bar beside it, that would be great. Thanks. So this diagram is really trying to show us, we've got your end user functional requirements, how they feed into the process, but also that we could actually group some of these together when it comes to design and implementation. It doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be designing every single end user requirement and designing every single functional requirement. Things can be grouped together, and then you would design for that scenario, okay?
I think this ties into the SDD stuff quite nicely, because you've got a kind of agile development here, because you're saying, right, these requirements, whether they're functional or end user, they all relate to the form, right? So what do I need from my form? Let's design my form. Let's create my form. Let's test my form. Brilliant, that bit works. Now I'm going to go back to my requirements and I'm going to pick up another couple and group them together and develop them. And it's that sort of iterative nature as well, that you're always going back and you're always referring back to your requirements, and you're always making sure, have I got that? Have I done that? Have I tested that? Have I included that as part of your development? Obviously, at National 5, it's quite small scale, but as you're getting to higher, and particularly when you're getting to advanced higher, and the pupils are off on their own, doing their own projects, having the kind of requirements as a wee tick list, just to kind of keep them on track is really quite important.
It's very important at advanced higher, particularly when it comes to the marking of them as well. Now, the diagram there has the golden threads. It looks kind of more like a flow chart, but that whole process would be iterative. So, you know, you would go back and looking at the functional requirements. So we're going to focus on the end user and functional requirements that connect the form, the one that was to click and collect a coffee. So if you could uncover topic 2D for me, Colin. Thank you. Okay, so we've put in sort of gold there, because these are the golden threads, the functional requirements and the end user requirements that are linked together. So we've got the website should include, sorry, we'll start with the end user, that would be better. The user should be able to fill in a form to click and collect a coffee. And the functional requirement, the website should include a form element allowing users to click and collect a coffee. So this covers one functional requirement and one end user requirement. So what would be necessary for the design for this?
I think whenever you're doing your design at web, you're kind of reliant on your wireframe, aren't you? But at higher, because you've got the form elements and you've got the validation, it's including the validation. And again, if you're leading on to advanced higher, you've got to validate everything. So how are you going to validate all your different inputs? And then from that form or from that wireframe, you're then able to implement your form, and then you'll be able to test your form, test all your validation, test that your submit button works. Even at higher, it doesn't actually work, doesn't do anything, but your submit button's there and it's kind of matching up with the design that you've produced. And then going back to your functional requirements and your end user requirements and saying, well, actually, does it let a user click and collect? Does it include a form element that allows a click and collect? Exactly,
and you know, that's, you can use that diagram there, and I think for the pupils, it actually then gives them a connection of sometimes I feel they wonder, why are we doing end user and functional requirements? But if they can see that as a one, then they're seeing how this connection runs through the entire project. And at the end of the day, it might make testing much easier for them. And also what we're going to want to look at next would be evaluation, because that's all part of this circle as well. Then they're looking at evaluating their whole system or the whole website on the functional requirements and on the usability of the website. Okay, so I think we've got a space for feedback. If you could just write in a wee post-it anything you'd like to say there or anything you'd like us to cover more, please do that. Someone's asked, is there a solved example? Yes, we've got the website created on Replit for you, and we'll give you the links for that. So
it's almost like they've read ahead and they know what's coming with the evaluation, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the golden thread, Jodie, I think the golden thread's a good idea. It was new to me, and it's something I've already used in my classroom. So I really like the idea of that, and the poster with the yellow or sort of gold going through it. I think that could go on a wall as well, you know, and it just reinforces this idea of how important the end user and functional requirements are, and how important analysis is. Okay, there's more questions there that we'll maybe have time at the end to sort of have a kind of roundup of the questions, but I'm going to hand over onto the evaluation stage now, where Ian's going to lead and Gordon is going to respond.
But yeah, topic 3A, there's a link to the Hawk Hill School coffee shop. If you click the link on the slide as opposed to one of the links to the left, that will take you to the deployment version of it. So you can go and have a wee look through the Hawk Hill website, juggling with the functional requirements, and then on topic 3B, sticking your posties.
So you can use the arrow at the top right of the wee screenshot on topic 3A to open up the website and have a wee look at it, and spend a couple of minutes looking at that, and just record your thoughts, things that occur to you, things that you spot on the stickies on board 3B. Bearing in mind this is against the National 5 fitness for purpose evaluation. So just jot down what you spot on a few stickies.
So we're looking for, is the website fit for purpose? And we're thinking about the kind of question that normally we find in an assignment, really, where after the candidates have built the website, they get this question at the end for a couple of marks. So within the National 5 website, there are 3 pages. There's a home page, there is an R menu page, and there is a Get Involved page. So if we're talking about the full website, we should really be looking at all 3 pages and all of the functional requirements. We seem to have answers, then people change their minds. Don't worry about if you're, I'm not sure if it's right, just leave it. So the requirements, somebody's pop, I'm not sure what all the requirements are. So if you slide back to this topic 3A slide, and we've got all the functional requirements of the things that we should have on the website. I'll give you a hint, they are not all there. So if we look at the kind of comments that we have got, we've kind of got a range of what I'd expect from some of my Nat 5 candidates, particularly when they get to the end of the task, they just go, yeah, it does everything that it's meant to.
Oh yeah, I mean, a common answer is that just horribly generic. I mean, we see even at advanced hire when we're marking the assignments. My solution is fit for purpose because it does everything it's meant to do. Yeah, you're not getting anything for that. I'm afraid. Sorry, that's just, it's too vague, it's too generic. It just doesn't tell us anything.
And I think it goes back to that. We were talking about the specificity of an analysis. Our evaluation should be equitably specific. If there's something, you know, if it's not fit for purpose, why is it not fit for purpose? Mm-hmm. And I think, you know, I try and suggest to my candidates, look, you've got this set of functional requirements. Go through that and see if the website does every single one of those things.
Yeah, and it's interesting looking at some of the stickies there and seeing, you know, it's fit for purpose because it's got these things, but it doesn't have these things. Well, if it doesn't have those things, it's not fit for purpose. And listing the things that it does do and listing the things it doesn't do can be quite useful in terms of that. Of course, some of our candidates lie to themselves, and we see this at advanced hire. Yeah, it does everything. No, it doesn't, and we can't find any evidence of it doing certain things. and they're lying to themselves to say, yeah, it's fit for purpose, because their requirements are weak. So that's why it's really important to have well-structured requirements in the first place. You get those right, it then becomes quite easy to do the fitness for purpose evaluation.
Mm-hmm. I think it's, having that reference when we're testing to the requirements list, so that as we're testing the website, we can see things are working, and then we're able to make that decision of, yes, the website is fit for purpose and this is why, or no, the website is not fit for purpose and this is why, and making that clear whether you think the website is fit for purpose or not, and then the why is it not fit for purpose. So an example on this website would be, there's good ones there, so there's no prices on the menu page, but there's still not that determination of it. Does that make it fit for purpose or not fit for purpose? I'm
quite happy to see candidates coming through saying it's not fully fit for purpose because it does X, Y, Z and lists all the functional requirements that it does have, but it doesn't have the list of prices or the video and the list of things it doesn't do. That's perfectly acceptable in an evaluation, I think.
Mm-hmm. And so I've not done this with my National 5, but looking at a similar task with the hire, it's quite useful for them to look at a website that they have not built and evaluate it, because it kind of points them to the things they need to be looking out for and making sure that they're referring to those functional requirements as a checklist, and going through it. And to be honest, I gave you a couple of mean ones in that example, which I'm quite glad that nobody picked up on. And if
Care to share?
the link that takes you to the SQA website doesn't take you to the right section of the SQA website.
Somebody has picked up on that.
Did they? Oh,
yeah, on that one they're making massive just now.
Okay, sorry. So what I get for skimming. Yeah. Well, they're saying it's fit for purpose as it has text.
Yeah.
Describing location, link on the homepage goes to the computing page and not Barista. So they've done that thing where they've said it's fit for purpose and then dug themselves back out that hole.
Yeah. That would be a suitable evaluation with the addition of one word at the beginning. Not.
Yes.
I think that would make that a far more realistic and meaningful evaluation. And pointing out what it does do is brilliant, but pointing out what it doesn't do is also important.
Excellent. Yep. And the video is missing, therefore it's fit for purpose, because I couldn't find an AI that would generate me a video of a coffee shop opening, which is what I use for all the other images on that website. Okay, well, we move on to have a look at hire.
Yeah, let's go and have a wee look at hire.
So, obviously, within hire, when we're talking about evaluation, we have got the two portions of evaluation. We've got the fitness for purpose, which we can assess in the same way as National 5, but we've also got the concept of usability. So same idea before, we have given you another version of the Hawkhill website, this time taking into consideration the requirements that you see there, the end user requirements of EU 10 to EU 13. And on topic 3D, we're asking you, is the hire website usable looking at the end user requirements for hire? So
it's a slightly different thing here, where as you look at the hire website, we want to think about that work we did earlier on scaffolding. So we've given you a scaffold for building functional and end user requirements. We've not gone down that line for evaluation, because we want to see if you can come up with a scaffolding for evaluation. What does a good evaluation look like? So by all means, use examples of the website that Ian's made at hire, but what's the structure of a good evaluation? That's what we want to get to here. So we'll give you a few minutes to do that.
I would encourage you to go and look at the R menu page because from the R menu page, if I find it and remind myself, you can access the coffee guide page, and then from the main menu bar, you've also got the place an order page, which, as we can see from the end user requirements, is there must be a form element allowing users to click and collect, and then we've got some JavaScript if you're looking for JavaScript. And then you can think about the overall accessibility of the site.
If the end user requirements are well structured, then yes, you should be able to. And the point about going through everything with a tick list, that's kind of actually what we're more or less building towards, is having that tick list. And you can do, and I think we'll pick up on the partially part. You can treat it, as you say, there's a binary thing, and say, well, there are 20 end user requirements, or there's 20 functional requirements, and it does 19 of them, but it doesn't do one. Therefore, it's not fit for purpose. It's not usable because it doesn't meet all the requirements. And that, I think the SQA would perfectly accept that. But we're looking at, I think the idea of partially is just introducing that bit of granularity, particularly when we get into advanced higher, where candidates are potentially providing lists of 15, 20 functional and end user requirements, and they've managed to hit 14 out of the 15. We're wanting them to be positive about what they're doing and not just say, no, it's not because this one thing didn't work. Actually, let's see them being a bit more granular about it. I think that's kind of my take on it. And I don't know if you've got thoughts on that.
I think if I was talking about at National 5 and higher, if I was talking about fitness for purpose, I agree that for fitness for purpose, I generally say, yes, it's either fit for purpose or no, it's not fit for purpose. I think for usability, to say that a website's partially usable works, because depending on, there's links missing, there could be a button missing, so that impacts the usability of it. Mm-hmm. But the information and the requirements could still be met.
Yeah. I think it's. I don't think we really need to say it. If you're teaching it as a binary thing, and it's yes because it does all of the things and all the end user requirements are met, fine. And if you're saying no because one of them isn't met, then fine. What we'd probably be looking for at advanced higher, and I know that's outside the scope of what we're looking at this evening, would be that little bit more discussion from the candidate about why it is in some ways and isn't in others. But probably at Nat 5 higher, it's the assignment level is going to be, is it fit for purpose in this particular area, and really focusing the candidate on a specific thing, which is a little bit more binary, I suppose.
I suppose it's that idea that although we're talking tonight about National 5 and higher, hopefully some of our higher candidates will progress to advanced higher. So it's just kind of setting, ever so how small, but setting the seed for that progression.
Absolutely.
And be that advanced higher or a career in the industry.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Ian, I think that's probably about our time on this one.
Yeah, so I think there's another wee feedback slide if you want to put any thoughts about what we chatted about with end user, with the evaluation in relation to the two websites. You're welcome to take those, as I'm sure we'll share out afterwards, take those two websites and use them with your classes. You've got the deployment links. I won't undeploy them from REPL. It doesn't cost me anything, so they can sit there. And if you kind of go right to the left of the board, you've also got the actual projects if you want to fork the REPL yourself and edit it. If you can't get it, I can download the HTML files and I'm sure Tony or Brendan will put them into the STACS Google Drive or something where you can get to them.
Yeah. I like the fact you've asked us to go right to the left of the board.
Well, yeah, the feedback's at the right. If you want the REPLs there,
Yeah.
they're away at the left.
Yeah. If you are grabbing your REPLs, maybe do that later and give us the feedback just now.
Yeah.
We're, we've not got much left to do. And of course, if you're not using REPL, you can go into Replit and download the file as the entire package as a zip, and then deploy that however you see fit to your candidates.
Yeah.
No.
I think I've just seen that comments came in about something not using REPL.
Yeah. The computer's just gone pear-shaped.
And I'll also pull for the website. I'll pull a crib sheet of where all the how it's not functional how it's not fit for purpose on both. Save you having to dig through the whole website.
Some good comments coming in there. Good range of bugs. Fantastic resource to use. Much appreciated. I'm not going to say you're welcome. I didn't develop it. Ian did. It was quite an interesting activity to build a website from functional requirements that I didn't design, and it was quite tricky to actually make it meet the functional requirements. Mainly because I didn't have a coffee shop at home that I could take pictures from. And you got kicked out of your local Starbucks for trying to take pictures, didn't you?
Yes, I just found an AI that would do it for me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Someone's saying get the pupils to come up with the idea for you to build the requirements. Yeah.
And then kind of give it back to
and evaluate. Yeah, that's a really good idea.
Give it back to the analysis team, give it to the development team, then the development team give it back to the analysis team to evaluate.
Yeah, and I think that leads to the point where we kind of do the practical on our own, and then but if you can build these into your practical exercises, I think the pupils will really benefit from that.
Absolutely. I mean, we talked as we were developing this about a learning and teaching approach where you give let's say you've got 15 kids in your class, because that's a nice number that will work because there's 5 stages. And you come up with 3 different scenarios, and you kind of give them to scenario 1, scenario 2, scenario 3, and then they're passing it on to the next person. Once they've done the functional end user requirements, they pass it on to the next person who does the design to pass on to the next person to do the implementation. And it's almost Chinese whispers, and then pass it on to someone else to test, but they don't actually know what's kind of come before. And they're just building up this picture of what it's meant to do, and see, just how tightly they get that. Because one of the biggest challenges we face is we teach the kids as an individual. Yeah, we do group work. Yeah, we do paired programming and so on. But essentially, we're teaching them as an individual. We're not really teaching as part of a team that's taking something somebody else has produced and applying that in the next step. How good is the design? Well, if they can't implement it, then your design's at fault. And offering those kind of levels of feedback.
Yeah, there's another good comment. Good to then revisit the golden threads to understand the connections once you have evaluated, and that brings in the whole idea of agile, and you're going back round that loop, if you like, to check things out.
Absolutely.
Thanks for the great comments, everyone.
Yeah, there's some really good thoughts there, so thanks for that. I'm just getting aware of time, and we did say we're aiming for a 8:30 finish, so we've got a few minutes yet. But I wonder if everyone could join me down at the plenary, big blue next steps. So thank you for your contributions this evening. Thank you for the comments, the feedback, the little notes, the discussion points that we've had. I picked up a couple of questions throughout the evening that I think is worth probably just covering off just now. So we saw a question earlier about, fair enough for Nat 4, about the difference between features and functions. And one of the reasons is I've not looked at Nat 4 in a while, so I wanted to just go and have a quick look at it. And if anyone else on the team wants to join in, please feel free. My kind of view on it is that functions are the things we expect it to do, such as there's a form, and features are things like the form will feature, and I'm being quite esoteric about that. It will feature a name field, a age field. It will feature a drop-down menu to select whatever it is. That's kind of my understanding in this context, although I accept it might be different in kind of software. Does anyone else have any thoughts on that?
I always went with a feature is something that it has and a function is something that it does. So a feature would be a video, a function would be playing the video. But you're splitting hairs, and for Nat 3 and Nat 4, it's a really difficult concept to try and grasp how are we actually distinguishing between these things.
Yeah. So I like that idea. It features a form, but the function is that the form is filled in and submits the data to something.
I'm just wrapping up websites with my third years, and we were kind of looking at National 4, thinking about it, and then linking at the progress to National 5. So the way I kind of viewed it is similar to Colin, but linking with the features in with the end user. The end user wants text about lattes to be featured in the website. There's information about lattes on the website. And then the function would be the website has a hyperlink that takes you to X place or the video plays. But
there's a reason that features don't feature past Nat 4 because we don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of that. But I think it's the feature is something it has, and as Colin says, the function is what it does with it. And there was another really good question I spotted earlier, which is how do we make sure that the pupils know the scope for Nat 5 before we teach this process? And I mean, the approach I take is I introduce some of the implementation aspects. Nat 5, it might be something simple like inserting a video, putting in some text, doing a paragraph, doing a heading, and so on. And then give them a wee task where it's analysis, design, implement, test, evaluate. But those are the only features they know about. So the task is designed to kind of reflect only the implementation that we've taught up to that point. And I think that's kind of the way to do it, is actually teach them some of the skills, then start introducing the analysis and the process.
I always teach analysis and evaluation together, and I always teach them at the end of the unit. So I teach them how to do all the stuff, all the implementation, because how are you meant to know that a video is meant to play on a website if you don't know how to put a video on a website?
Yeah.
So I always do the implementation first, and then so remember we have the software development process, and remember how we've just done that completely backwards. Well, now we're going to add an analysis, and oh, by the way, when you've got these functional requirements and end user requirements, that's what you're evaluating against.
Yeah, I think that's an equally valid approach. Ian, Maggie, anything to?
No, absolutely. I think it's every year I teach this, I think I do things slightly different because I learned from the year before, but there are things that they need to know before they can do what we'd expect them to do first. Like, it's not even design, even in some design things, they need to know stuff at implementation level before they could consider designing it. So it might be that looking at your course plan and seeing, maybe analysis shouldn't come before they start, before you do implementation.
Ian, any quick thoughts on that?
I kind of take the approach that Colin and Maggie kind of take with doing the implementation, a good chunk of the implementation first, and then introduce analysis. Because as we said, they need to know what they can do before they say, "Oh, the website must do this," because they need to know how to do it. I suppose there's an argument of they can say the website needs to be able to have a form, because they've extracted that from the analysis, but we just don't take it any further at National 5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you kind of want that approach.
Okay. Right. Thank you for the questions, and thanks to the team for the amazing answers. So we'll move on to the formal plenary then, which is to thank you all for completing the survey that was sent out, and we're reviewing the information. This is very much an agile approach to delivery as well, in that we're not actually 100% sure what we're doing in the next section, because we want the feedback from you guys about what you want to know more about. We're going to react to what you're telling us, and that's through the survey that STACS sent out, and that we'll have a look at that data. And if you've not filled in that survey, please do so. There's a link on the plenary slide there.
You might, during the course of the evening, have other ideas, things that you think you would like to have a session on. So if you've got feedback 4 there, which is the frame beside the plenary, if you want to jot down any ideas, anything that you want to know more about from tonight, or anything that maybe you would want taken further, please put them on feedback 4.
Yeah, please do. And of course, this is all about all of us supporting each other as a teacher of computing. We are in the same boat as you are. We're looking for resources. We're looking for new ideas. We're looking for new things to do. And this is about this community and network of support. So we do have a request of you.
Okay, so you might be teaching the web topic soon. You might have completed it. You might be thinking of a revision exercise before prelim, or a consolidation exercise. Then why don't you use our coffee shop scenario? You could ask your class to come up with a functional and end user requirements without the idea of scaffolding. See what they come up with.
And then, as we've done tonight, introduce the scaffolding. I mean, we think it's amazing. It was Colin that brought it to us, and I instantly went, yes, all over that, love it. And we want to get some feedback from you about the difference it makes to our learners across Scotland. Does it help them tie the process together any better?
And this can be, this can be extended into higher and advanced higher. And I think if, you can build on from N5, then advanced higher projects will just get better and better, because I always find with mine that analysis and building those functional requirements is really, really difficult for them. But it is, as we say, the golden thread of the whole project.
If you do use it, please do let us know. Please get some feedback through STACS. And we would appreciate it if you take this and have or develop similar resources that can be adapted and used by others. Ping them into us. Ping them into STACS so we can share them and support other colleagues that are in other sessions this week. Those that did the software session last night, or the database session on Thursday, or might be looking at this for the future, or the next generation of computing teachers coming through student training just now.
We'll share a PDF of the board, as well as a recording of the session tonight. And if you've got any materials or activities that you use in the classroom, then you can include them. You can send them to us as well. But we'll give you the board as well as the recording of the call.
And the materials from the software development and database development sessions will also be available to you. So if you've not been in those sessions, then by all means do this. And bear in mind that we've the golden threads approach is transferable to both of those as well.
After each session, there'll be a kind of half hour, what we're calling the after party. If you feel you want to hang on and ask any questions, then we'll be here for that time.
But that is kind of bringing this first session to an end. We have got a roadmap on our kind of last bit right down at the bottom of the Miro. So there's the STACS email address, there's tutor emails that you can contact. We'll be doing some reflection on the first event, so please do send any feedback you've got, submit ideas for materials, and indeed submit some ideas for the next session. What do you want to see us doing? What do you need? What do you want? We have been asked just to talk briefly about Replit. There is an emerging issue with Replit where artificial intelligence will now code things for you, websites, programs, and so on. We are, STACS have been in contact with Replit, and within the next week-ish, they should be switching that off within the education, Teams for Education for Replit, which is of course free to teachers. I'm not on any commission, by the way. I just like it. So that we can disable AI for learners, and hopefully that relieves some of that challenge. Okay. So we'll now end the session, but we'll hang around after party, and if you want to switch on cameras, ask us questions, ask us anything within reason, and show off your Halloween makeup.